So we're here today to wrap up and to celebrate what's been an awesome, fun learning journey, Facing Fear Zero to Backflip project. If you've seen the last video on YouTube, that kind of ended with a to be continued frame. So that's what we're here for today. If you haven't seen that video yet, episode 8 of Facing Fear, I recommend going and watching that one on YouTube first. But yeah, Mike, what do we want to talk about today?
Well, I mean, you're kind of discussing a little bit already off camera, like just the first thoughts about when, project doesn't really go, or like your goal doesn't really go to how you planned it. It can feel like a little bit of a negative thing, or like a unfinished business, a little heartbreaking, all that kind of stuff. But just kind of reframing that and really seeing the value in it. And while it can feel like maybe a little bit patronizing or a little bit like you're just kind of saying that to yourself to try and feel better, there's some reality there where I think in the long term, looking back, you're creating a lot of data, wisdom, learnings that just create a lot of better understanding about what you're trying to do and actually improving your chances in the grand scheme of things. So just, I guess, trying to recognize it from a further away perspective, or like the grand scheme of things a little bit more, can be difficult in the early days, but that's sort of what we're looking at here, I think.
Yeah, dude, I love that. It's definitely been a challenging new journey for me. And it's been interesting talking to a lot of people and kind of telling them like, this is my first like proper or like big injury from mountain biking, which is kind of crazy considering I've been doing this for a while now and doing it for a job for like 7 years. So I think I've got lucky in a sense, and maybe due to like, or thanks to all of the coaching I've received over the years from people like you, and kind of generally taking like a controlled, kind of slow, cautious approach to my learning and my progression. But that being said, yeah, it's been a new journey to face, and it's been one, that's been full of lots of different emotions, from like the positives, like you say, of like, yeah, I faced my fear, like that's freaking sick.
Yeah.
And that was a huge success. As well as that, even just going after perhaps like a more ambitious goal. It's definitely the most ambitious, like biggest, scariest thing I've ever done on a bike, and the shortest possible timeline as well. So that was new to me, and it was cool to kind of like put myself in the ring in that way and be vulnerable and maybe head out on the risk curve a little bit. So many good learnings came from the process. And then obviously there's been the other side too. At the start there was a lot of like regret and frustration, like, oh man, why have I done this to myself? And yeah, even like some anger, sense of like letting down my client, sense of guilt, stuff like this as well. But yeah, now it's been 3 weeks. I feel like I've processed a lot of that, and I'm able to take a bigger picture look and maybe see, some of the silver linings that have come out of it as well.
For sure, yeah.
So yeah, perhaps before we go any further, we should just kind of like fill the gap and let people know what actually happened that day.
Absolutely.
After I tried my first backflip to the mulch shop there in Estes.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so I guess, from my perspective, I felt ready and I felt excited. There was definitely still nerves there. And that was like a big like barrier there to face that day. But it did feel similar to a lot of the other barriers I'd faced, like at numerous steps along the process, like people would have seen in the videos. The first backflip on the trampoline, and then the first backflip on the flat lander bag, first one. On the proper lander bag, there was so many like of these similar barriers. So that day felt really similar, like it's just like taking another step in the journey, another step in the process. But ultimately what happened was I carried much more speed than I needed into that jump. To do a flip at the lip I chose to take, and over-rotated, ended up landing like really heavily on my butt. And that was like this huge impact. I was winded. So thankful for you guys there like coaching me through that journey, because that was something new for me, and it was really scary at the time. I had no breath left in my belly. I felt like I couldn't breathe, and all I could do was like make that sound of like exhaling. It kind of sounded like a cow. But yeah, you and obviously JP, our other coach and friend, was there on the day, happened to be there working on some stuff for himself, but was really helpful in both you guys just kind of talking me calmly through that process of like, you're winded, Jake, it's okay, just try and breathe. And then ultimately took me to the clinic there at Whistler, and cannot thank the staff there enough. They were so calm and collected, and just like the wisdom they had to, kind of helped me through that challenging stage in the process. And ultimately what happened was I got some x-rays, they checked out all my internals. Everything was fine for the most part, except for my T8, one of the vertebrae in my spine. suffered a compression. So essentially like a 20% compression. It's now, or it was 80% of the height it should have been, which is essentially a bone break. But the really cool thing about the spine, and this is something I didn't realize until I suffered this injury, is that it will not grow back, but it will stretch back out to the full length it should be over the course of 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
So that's the good thing. It's a stable injury. There's no other kind of complications or anything there. It's what they call a stable bone break. So just like a fracture to the arm or any other bone, I need to rest it and, you know, make sure to keep the other muscles moving around it and keep them strong so that they can support my bone structure while it's healing. But yeah, 4 to 6 weeks, I'll be back on the bike, back in the gym, back doing all the things I love. So today's week 3 and it feels good. I was telling you, I visited my physio yesterday and kind of, you know, get some good news, bad news. Bad news was, Jake, you still can't get on a bike. But the good news was I can get on a stationary bike, start getting my heart rate up and start adding in some, you know, basic resistant exercises and keep moving in that way. So that's what happened. Ultimately, like, I'm still seeing it as a success. Like, my goal going into this project was to face my fear and to try a backflip to dirt. Like, that was the fear. It wasn't to like master them and get these perfect, you know, flips so that I can go and join Travis Pastrana. It was just like, it's to do a backflip. So yeah, ultimately it's a success. I don't know, is there anything you want to kind of chime in on at this stage in the convo? And
absolutely. Like there's so many things. While you're introducing everything and filling people in on what's gone down more recently, a bunch of places my head went. First off, I want to say, like, you know, it's what most drew me to the project and really wanting to be involved when you presented it was, even at the moment that we hadn't really done anything, I shared with you and I recognized the value that this could bring to the mountain bike community. Especially this particular trick is, like, you know, what a lot of people dream about. But what stood out, because it's been done before, like how to flip or you know, there's trick tip videos all over the place. But what was standing out for me was that, like, who you are and how you approach things really makes it very unique. In your journey, you're going about it very responsible and, like, methodical. You're someone who's a mountain bike coach, very analytical, and like you described yourself more on the conservative side of things. You like to, like, take the precautions necessary, take your time, and learn it the right way. And I think that that's really going to resonate with a lot of riders in the mountain bike community, where it might start to create a different feeling where maybe they can do a flip. I think it can be very inspiring for people. So I think that's a great part of the success that we've created, or that you've created in this project already. Even in the first few episodes, I think that was created, and it certainly resonates all the way through. I think that in the lead up to taking it to a mulch jump, where, you know, the parameters are such that you have to be more precise, more perfect. While you may not have found the result that you were hoping for at this stage, I think that you can rest assured, like, both of us have, like, saw all the necessary boxes. They were there. Like, it's easy for us to kind of get into a little bit of a hindsight mindset of what if this or what if that. Like, I can certainly recognize that, especially having just experienced an injury myself around the same time, actually. So we're kind of in both a similar space in the recovery, like 3 weeks-ish post-injury. Those early thoughts of, like, oh, I should have this or I should have that, or, like, that's so easy to fall into. But I honestly think that based on everything that led up to, like, it was the right time and you were ready. There's a lot of nuances and different things that can kind of contribute why we got the result that we did. But I think that there wasn't a lack of preparation. If anything, there was, like, you nailed it for preparation. Like, we saw lots of consistency on the bag. We saw a real, like, disciplined approach to, like, you're only going to attempt it when you feel like this is the one. So if there's any, like, little moments of hesitation or a little, like, no, we're just going to do a few more straight airs. Those are the kinds of things where you're just improving your odds massively. And then at the end of the day, like, there is just a few things that are just, like, left up to chance, you know? And so, like, even when you do all that perfect preparation, you just can't remove that there's always going to be a little bit of chance. One thing that stood out when you're describing what's happened and what led to this project and all that kind of stuff is that you mentioned that you haven't experienced like a big crash like this or a big injury like this, like first time experiencing setting a big goal like this. Like, so I think all of those firsts will in time contribute to now a wider toolkit as well. So another way that this is a huge success, I think, is that you're now coming back to what you do well with mountain bike coaching with even more. You can resonate and understand in a new way when people who you're working with have faced a similar experience. They set goals and what they'll consider to be failures, or, they get down, they're injured. Like, now you can speak from a place of direct experience. That's something that'll be new and I think really valuable for both your coaching as well as the clients receiving your coaching. And it's an unfortunate way for us to experience that level up in the sense of our coaching, but I think that it is a necessary part, unfortunately, of being a really great, well-rounded coach. Someone who's going to do this for a long time and spend a big part of their life being a professional in this industry. I think that's always going to be possible and likely.
Thanks, man.
So,
yeah,
but it makes
honestly, you saying that means a lot.
Yeah, it really does.
And you're so right. Like, a big part of my why with like going after this project was like this wanting to put myself in my client's shoes, to be like, well, what does it feel to feel fear? Like, I do have this strong feeling, like, as coaches, if we're not actively seeking progression ourselves and going after goals and having fun on the bike or even working with our own coaches, kind of makes us a bit of a hypocrite when we're like, hey, you should get coaching, right? So a big part of this was like putting myself in my client's shoes and going after my equivalent of a big scary goal. So a lot of people watching these videos might notice, like, on the mental front, they're going through similar things, whether they're trying to do their first rock roll or their first tabletop jump or whatever it is they're working on. We're going through the same journey in facing our fears.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, although this is a harsh way of learning, injuring yourself, it's not something we'd wish on ourselves or wish on anyone. It is perhaps like it is a useful part of my journey as a coach, and my experience as a mountain biker is going through this pain and coming back stronger and having more wisdom because of it. So for that, I'm really grateful. And yeah, the other thing I just wanted to mention is my gratitude for you and for Ryan for being willing to guide me through the process, but also for being willing for like letting me, set some of my own goals and some of my own parameters in that. A big one there was, towards the end of this journey, I was like, right, Mike, like, I wanted to get this done by the end of August. I'd set myself like that 3-month kind of goal. Some of that was like, we're dealing with a limited season here in the Sea to Sky, and the airbag will be making way for a ski slope at some stage soon. Some of that was like North Shore Norco had been extremely kind to lend me a dirt jumper for the summer. And it's been rad, but I was like, I really want to get my end goal before I give this bike back, kind of thing. I didn't want to wait. I kind of had some impatience. And then another big part of that, or part of the journey, was like, you obviously, like, yeah, man, I'm sorry, you had a crash while challenging yourself, doing some tricks of your own. And we got to that stage where you were like, you text me one morning, like, Jake, I'm not going to be able to ride today. Like, it's up to you. You can still do it. I think you're ready, but it's up to you. And yeah, ultimately, like, I want to take responsibility for making that call. I was like, yeah, like, I feel like I've got this and I want to go for it regardless. Yeah. So it was so rad still having you there on the day, being able to guide me through like the journey and kind of, some of the nerves that were coming up off the bike and still give me feedback. But ultimately, like, that was my decision to make, getting on the bike and pulling for the flip that day. So I don't want, like, anyone viewing the video for it to come across as like negligence on your part or any of that. This was my decision, and I chose to pull the trigger when I did.
Yeah. So. No, I appreciate that, all the kind words and the gratitude for the good coaching. Absolutely. Like, it was, like I said, my pleasure to be part of this project. And I don't think that anyone who's paying attention will really take that, because you can see that, like, you did. I think any good coach, like, part of what's difficult about our job is how much to, like, meddle with or be involved with someone's process, especially at the time where they're about to attempt something like in their kind of edge zone, because there is like that element to it where if you get a little too involved or you introduce like, your precautions that you're trying to make clear, okay, I have, like, make sure this, that, you may introduce doubt, you may introduce hesitation. And so, like, riding that line, I think you and I do quite well, just being tuned in to, especially if it's a regular client, tuned into people's like mental state and where they're coming from, what their mindset is. When you're good at that, I think you can choose the right amount of how to meddle with somebody, and like, or how much to meddle with, like, have you done this or have you done that before they're. Sometimes it's just good to like sit back and let them kind of, you know what I mean? Like just sort of, and that's sort of what I think we did, getting closer to the moment where you tried it, even in the days prior to that, where you're like different stages, but your first time going to pull to the bag, for example, like those kind of moments, I think I was noticing that, like, in my head, I had thoughts of like, okay, Jake, like, remember this, remember that, but I didn't vocalize them because I knew that you already had that going on in your head. And for the person that's guiding you through that or assisting you with your goals from the coach position, I think that, like, you don't need to hear that. You can just kind of feel it, especially because we've been working together for a while now, so we kind of know each other a little bit. So I like that you being a coach as well are kind of aware of it. It's like an unspoken conversation that we kind of have, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have your clients where that's kind of the feeling as well. So yeah, I don't know, a lot there, but I do want to like applaud the courage that you have for this entire project, but in particular, like being someone, the kind of rider that you are, and methodical approach to still go for it. And also like just putting, like you said, like putting yourself putting your money where your mouth is a little bit. Like everything that you practice and preach and teach in your position is going to have a higher value if you can demonstrate that you're also a client of your own work, essentially, a little bit, right? And so if you're putting yourself in fearful situations in places where you consider to be your edge zone, if I was your client or someone that's being coached by you, everything that you're saying or delivering to me carries higher weight, higher value. I respect it a lot more. Rather than, it can be someone who's been in the industry a long time, they have great credentials, but I just don't see them riding in a way that's pushing their own level. It's not going to mean the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I really respect that.
Thanks, man. And I see so much of that in you as well, like in some of these videos too. We see it like when we're cooking and I'm having fun, you're like, I want to go and practice something that's challenging for me now. And then you do.
Yeah.
So it's so cool, just like that idea of practice what you preach. And yeah, I think this whole journey really speaks to the way we both coach and kind of like what I call a full circle approach. Like I could not have got to like the first step on the airbag without that full circle approach, like being on the right bike for the job that's set up specifically for me, having the right coach for me that I really resonate with and trust, having the right facility. So huge shout out to both Air House and then Lisa at the Whistler Airbag for extending their facilities to us for that project. And yeah, like working with the tools I've trained myself on, and you working with your own like way of mentally coaching me through that process. We really had like the technical skills coaching, the mental skills coaching, the equipment, and then even like the physical side of things, like being physically fit, strong and agile with the work I do with Alex from Nexus Fit. It was so cool to kind of like just put myself in the ring and being like, right, Jake, this is how you teach people day in and day out. Now teach yourself with that same methodology. Fun.
Yeah. And then, in the end with, or in this current chapter of it, even though it wasn't the result you were hoping for, it adds to what you mentioning full circle. Like part of that full circle is like experiencing an unsuccessful attempt to the mulch is part of that full circle, right?
You're right. Like, it's like two sides of the same coin, right? And you can't have the coin, which is the backflip, the success on one side with the failure on the other. You can't have that coin unless you're really willing to experience both sides of those coins.
Yeah. I was thinking on the way over here that like a big part of being experiencing the endorphins, the joy that we get out of mountain biking is controlled risk, and so you take some of what you know for sure and you throw in a little bit of what, like, I'm not really sure what's going to happen about this, or this part is a bit of a mystery, and you only get to discover that. You're only enlightened with that in your attempt. It like creates that full circle understanding of something. So there's always going to be that, slice of the pie or that fraction within the riding community that are not willing for them, that value. Like it's all different for everybody. It's all relative, but like risk versus reward, right? That constant equation that we're faced. And you basically get to a point where the wonder, the curiosity, the desire to find success overcomes the concern for injury or hurting yourself. Like once that tips the scales, then you're going to go and you're going to do it. You're going to do what it takes. If that means practicing like long hours into the day, if that means like studying videos, if that means like putting yourself in some risky situations, that curiosity, that desire to find success in your goal has tipped the scales from the concern of hurting yourself or the what ifs of the negative side. And that's when you're really going to go for it. And you may be successful, you may be unsuccessful, but in that completing the goal. But what you are definitely successful in is answering that question to you, right? And I think that a lot of riders can resonate with that and identify that even all the way up at the pro level. Like some of the things I was also thinking about on the way over here was examples of that. Like, you know, I was watching recently the Anytime, you know, with Brett Reeder, and he had that collision in Chile, I think it was, with Brad. That was something where, you know, they're under the pressure of a video project. They want to do something awesome. They're like answering to what they know to do very well. They're like live and breathe mountain biking. They're professionals. And so they come in with a lot of confidence and they understand that like they're prepared to like, it's worth the risk. They know that there's risks involved, but the feeling that you get from a success and the potential for that is enough to put themselves in that situation. Another one is like from Red Bull Joyride last year, right? She had attempted her backflip in competition, Red Bull Joyride, a lot on the line, like some of the only females backflipping in competition. She's one of the very few. And she stood up to the moment and was like, I'm going to do it. Understood the risks involved and certainly paid a very long-term price in her decisions. But, you know, again, I see those as examples of like, it tipped the scales, that like drive was strong enough that like I'm okay with that. Or like you just like flooded with endorphins of like, yep, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, like accepting both sides of that coin. It's so courageous, isn't it? And
absolutely. I mean, that's the definition of it, really.
Yeah, totally. And I guess like another point I wanted to touch on, some people are probably wondering like, where to from here? Like for me with the backflip, am I going to wait till my back's healed and then go and pull for another one? Or like, what does that look like? And it's something I've obviously been thinking about a lot, you know, since over the last 3 weeks. It's been, you know, sidelined, being off the bike, being at home. And of course, I think kind of where I'm at with it is like, yeah, this is like a TBC. This is, we're kind of wrapping up the project for now, wrapping up this chapter, but it's definitely not the end of the book. Like, especially like riding dirt jumps, I've learned so much about like the nuances of jumping, the pop, the arc, and how to do that. And it's already been helping in my mountain biking and in my coaching. So thankful for that. And also just like, I've learned so much about like myself, and it's been like this giant mirror and sometimes like a slap in the face. Like when I landed my first backflip and I'm being so self-analytical and focusing on all the things that aren't happening. And it's so like, this is what I coach clients through every day and help them to see what is happening in their riding and perhaps to recalibrate and steer towards the successes rather than what's not happening and that kind of feeling of being stuck. So there's been so much there, but ultimately for me, like, right now, I'm like sick. Yeah, this has been rad. I can see so many of those positives. I'm just excited to get back on the bike and get back to mountain biking. I think the rest of fall, once we get that hero dirt in October, November down in Squamish, it's going to be a packed month for me. I got so much coaching sessions to catch up on, so much of my own riding I want to do. And then November, I'm heading down to Tasmania to run the Tasmanian mountain bike experience with tailored trails. So much good riding I'm excited for in the pipeline. It's not necessarily backflipping, but that goal is still like there in the back of my mind, and it's something like I'm just gonna leave it. Like when I feel ready, I'm gonna come back to. I'm just, like I said, I enjoyed riding dirt jumps so much. I'm definitely gonna have another dirt jumper in my stable next season, and yeah, get on the Squamish dirt jumps, the Whistler dirt jumps. Definitely get back to the Whistler Mountain Airbag and just experiencing how like safe that can make learning and how fun that can make learning. I had so many heavy slams like on my head repetitively. Times when the bike lands on top of me or I land on top of the bike and like ultimately I was fine. The next day I was fine. So I'm excited to get back there, and I think like that's what I'd look to do is just get back to like consistent flips on that bag and just give it as much mileage, as much repetition as I need to perhaps like feel it on a deeper level, and have more variation in like my nuance of that rotation, slowing it down, speeding it up, controlling it. Just give myself more mileage without the pressure of like, I want to do it on this date. And I know one day I'm going to feel it in my heart again and be like, yeah,
Yeah.
today's the day, Mike, let's go back to Nesters. So that's kind of my thoughts on like where I'm at with it moving forward.
Dude, that's super exciting to hear. Like, you know, just before we flip the camera on, I know we were talking about like, it just depends where you want to put the goalposts, right? So to keep them open enough that you can see, like you can visualize yourself doing it again, is really great. And like, you know, that'll be part of, like, it's looking back on this, it'll be a key moment within that learning. Like, you know, you were talking about putting more mileage in and feeling more comfortable. There's just a well-rounded understanding of it that's a little bit more complete with an unsuccessful attempt like this that created an injury. And another thing I was thinking about as you were chatting is also that, like, I think the most valuable learnings that I've had and like wisdom from from the mountain biking world have come from time off the bike. Like there's a perspective you can only have off the bike that is a little bit more clarity. You kind of have that more third person approach at your riding and what's going on, because you're not like actively doing it. So you can look back on like memories, you can look back on actual video if you have it, or photos, and just dissect a little bit more. When if you had been not injured and you're on the bike, you just don't make the time for that in the same way. Now you've got a surplus of time. And so like that's kind of how we feel it, because we're bike nerds, right?
Yes,
so,
exactly.
You know, that I think is good reminders to have in the time that we are down off the bike, is that like this is actually like kind of what we want sometimes when we are able to ride. We're like, more time, like I need to do this and that.
Yeah,
so, like, now this is how we're gonna fill it, because we can't turn off the bike nerd in us. We're gonna like go back and look at all these things, and you get better at understanding riding and what to improve and how to ride really well and coach really well.
Dude,
coaching yourself.
That is it. There is always a silver lining there. And like you say, this is like the end of summer is usually like one of our busiest times for work. So that, I guess, is like one of the gifts that's kind of shown up for me. It's like, oh, now you have time to actually like work on your business and on your coaching offerings, and even just like connect with more people in the community that I haven't had time to connect with. So yeah, like I wanted to say, like, to anyone watching this video that may be going through an injury or a setback, or even just like a challenge of their own, that may be feeling alone in the journey, like don't hesitate to reach out to Mike and I. We're bike nerds.
Totally.
We love talking about this stuff, and if there's anything we can do to help, even just talking and sharing our experience with you, we'd love to help. So
certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind me speaking for you there,
No,
Mike,
absolutely.
I know you're a generous guy.
I think you're confident in saying that based on what I've already shared on my socials and in person, that like people know, and I hope they know that they can, and like I deal with it too. We all do, right? And so if we can make it like a little bit more approachable, or less stigma behind like asking for support, or even just like you know, a little bit of ear to listen, or someone to listen, you know, it's so valuable, and you actually find that like you can push through and you know, improve your understanding of these tough situations and get through all of it. Yeah.
Even just in knowing like, well, where to from here? Like, how do you get back on the bike, and perhaps like what does the process look like to get back to where you were or where you want to be now that you have this new like piece of mental interference of this injury or this setback in your mind? It's something you and I are going through right now in real time. So it's something that's super fresh for us, and ultimately this is what we do. This is our job, taking people from where they are to where they want to be and getting them through the challenges that lay in that path. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. People can probably hear we've got a lawnmower approaching us, getting closer and closer here, so we're going to wrap things up. But Mike, is there anything else you wanted to talk about today in this conversation before we...
Not really. I think we covered it, but I mean, I guess I would just round it all out with saying, like, thanks again for including me in the project. It's precisely the kind of thing that I enjoyed being a part of, or actively seek out. You know, like-minded individuals creating media and coaching material that's like really lands and resonates with the community and hits like almost like a bit of a hole that's something that's missing there. I think we did that, and so I was like thrilled to be a part of it. And I'll also say that like just never like be afraid to explore those big goals. I think you demonstrated that really well. I think that you know, had you not pursued it or shut it down early, then you never get to find out what potential success there is, right? So like, you know, even though the end goal or where we ended with it at the moment, with the end of this chapter, was not what you had planned, you can really look at each plateau as being a success in itself, because prior to setting the goal, you had none of that, right? So after having set that goal, created this project, you successfully learned how to ride a dirt jumper bike, learned how to ride steep gaps, like steep lipped with gaps on that snake line. It's a completely different kind of riding. It's very intimidating. You started rotating your bike and getting flips on the airbags. Massive milestone. It's so scary to put yourself upside down and follow through with that. In any of those steps, you know, you could have recognized like, oof, not worth it, I'm going to walk away, right? And you just, by setting this, maybe this project's a bit of an extra incentive, by staying committed to your vision and understanding that like there's value in pushing through and progressing yourself, I think you've just created something you should be very proud of, and I'm stoked to be a part of it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate your kind words there so much. And yeah, like I said, this project could not have been without you, without Ryan, and with all of our supporters. So yeah, huge thanks to, again, North Shore Norco, Whistler Mountain Airbag, and then Air House Squamish as well. And also, like, huge thanks to everyone else who is interested in nerding out on bikes, on mindset with us.
Bike nerds.
We couldn't do what we do for a job without all of you guys. So I'm so grateful for the mountain biking community around the world. So yeah, thank you to everyone involved. And yeah, Mike, this has been real. This won't be the last chapter in this journey.
I'll be there when you're back.
Thank you,
Let's
brother.
do it.